Okay, let's continue our series of human levitation. This is the final chapter where all is revealed. Chapter 33, So You Want to Fly. The author here is Preston Dennett of the book Human Levitation, A True History and How-To Guide. So you want to fly. Is it possible for anybody to levitate? As we have seen, the answer is yes. People of all types levitate. You don't have to be a saint, yogi, medium, psychic, or astral traveler, though this certainly seems to help. Nor do you have to believe that levitation is even possible. Several of the levitators have no prior beliefs concerning the subject when they started levitating. If you've read this far into the book, you obviously have an interest in spirituality and are therefore an ideal candidate. As we have seen, the secret behind levitation is disassociation. Whether it's through prayer, meditation, mediumship, sleep, trance, austerities, illness, or trauma, the one constant is disassociation. The next question would be then, how does one disassociate to induce levitation? Not surprisingly, there are different ways. While illness or trauma are obviously not feasible, nor are drugs recommended, there are many other methods which you can use to achieve levitation. Writes Joseph Weed, to levitate skillfully and successfully, the physical organism must be purified. A diet is prescribed, and one must be rid of all excess weight. Along with the physical training, mental exercises are recommended, and of course, an increase in psychic energy is essential. Those who have succeeded explain that it is not too difficult to repeat once achieved, not too unlike learning to swim. Weed believes that the ability to levitate is inherent in everybody, otherwise it would not be possible for so many individuals of so many different races and places with such different backgrounds of experience and culture to perform them. While Weed writes that excess weight must be removed, the cases show that several overweight persons have in fact levitated, though conversely there are virtually no cases of levitating alcoholics, drug addicts, etc. Spiritual and physical purification therefore seems to be an obvious factor. Ramtha, as channeled by J.Z. Knight, explains that levitation can be accomplished through a process of focusing one's consciousness, says Ramtha. So now, if we are going to accept a philosophy as outrageous as levitation, we have to change some conventional views. We have to change them because if we don't, we will never get to levitate. So now I teach you. With one day, you will do how to levitate once we have worked on your focus. Which one day you will do how to levitate once we have worked on your focus. What you would start to do is that you would alter the resonant field that you are currently in. Now let's inject something here about field phenomenon. Field phenomenon is sort of like radiation, microwave fields, electromagnetic fields. Listen to me very carefully. All fields are produced of a stream of consciousness. They are a phenomenon of consciousness. Now with that in mind, then, all fields are fields, known and unknown, are subject then to streams of consciousness. And what is the greatest accelerator that you now possess that can tune into different streams of consciousness? The brain. To learn to levitate is to change the resonant frequency field that you currently inhabit. So when I say that when you change your resonant field, you alter the field in which you are in, that the field becomes pliable according to focused consciousness, that the field overlapped in this field will be an anti-gravity field because it will eat gravity to sustain its higher resonance. There are apparently many different ways to levitate. What follows are 6 of the major methods that are used by various cultures to achieve the mystical state of levitation. Pranayama. Levitation can be achieved through the practice of pranayama, an ancient Eastern practice involving control of the breath. It should only be done by a true yoga initiate with a qualified teacher. This can be a rather complicated process, so pay attention. The student is instructed to sit in the full lotus posture and inhale. After inhaling, you are to hold your breath until it becomes uncomfortable. counting the number of seconds. Then exhale. Now you are instructed to time your inhalation to be 1/4 the length of the time you comfortably held your breath. Inhale for this length of time and hold your breath as before. Next time, your exhalation to be 1/2 the length of the time you held your breath. In other words, you breathe with a timed ratio of 1 inhalation, 4 retention, 2 exhalation. If this sounds complicated, it is. This is one method of pranayama, according to one source. If you can perform the pranayama for 100 repetitions by inhaling for 60 seconds, holding your breath for 64 seconds, and exhaling for 32 seconds, then you have reached the threshold necessary for levitation. Of course, it will take time to work up to this point. This breathing practice will reportedly bring about a number of physiological changes. First, there is a feeling of lightness. The body will then perspire. This is followed by a trembling of the body, which then starts to hop up like a frog, then finally raises into the air. This is the true practice of yogic flying. This practice may take years to achieve, and the students here again very strongly advise to see a yoga instructor if they want to use this method. Another very important note, pranayama is normally practiced only by students who have already mastered the various yoga asanas and some yamas, the postures and meditations and concentrations. Included in these are several other steps: a good thought, good action, abstinence, meditation, concentration, ... Again, this method should only be used by serious students who are already under the guidance of a qualified teacher. Masaharu Naruse is one of the few modern living levitators. In regards to how to levitate, he writes, "It is to use instantaneously prana, or vital energy permeating the universe. Place one's consciousness on the destination point for floating. According as the amount of consciousness increases, existential reversal takes place and the physical self becomes evacuated. Then the physical body gets attracted towards the consciousness, which has been already shifted to the destination. One can thus levitate." From www.narusyoga-yoga.com. Some Indian fakirs seem to use a similar method. As Keller writes, a first-hand case, the magician laid himself flat upon the earth, face downward for a minute or a minute and a half, then arose, and then pressing his arms tightly against his sides, stepped forwards and upward, as if upon an aerial stairway, walking up into the air to an altitude of several hundred feet. My informant said he thought he might have done this through an occult knowledge of electrical currents, as if these fakirs changed at will the nature of the electrical current with which the body was changed from negative to positive, or vice versa, inhaling an electrical influence from the earth which had the effect of destroying the force of gravity. This idea is echoed by Blavatsky, who writes, "The altitude of levitation would be measured by his ability to charge his body with positive electricity. This control, once obtained, acceleration of his levity or gravity would be as easily as breathing." Says yoga teacher I.K. Taimini, levitation is a very common phenomena in pranayama practice and is due to the pranic currents flowing in a particular way. Writes Rampa, levitation is accomplished by a very special form of breathing, which actually raises the frequency of the body's molecular oscillations so that it is able to induce a form of contragravity. If one is expert enough, one can control the height at which he floats. If one is not so expert, well, it is to be hoped that they said goodbye to their friends and relations before practicing. In the East, the great lamaseries, which were such great in the East, in the great lamaseries, where such things are taught, all practices are first conducted indoors, so that the worst can befall a novice, in that he gets thumped on the head by the ceiling, and that often serves to teach him to study more studiously. Levitation cannot be done while there are Scoffers gaping at one because it demands concentration and a special form of breathing. Some of the best evidence for the veracity of levitation comes from an ingenious yet simple experiment designed by pioneering paranormal researcher Hereward Carrington. It involves the use of breathing and the common schoolyard game known as finger levitation. Carrington's repeated experiments prove conclusively that rhythmic breathing can in fact reduce the weight of a human body. The experiment involved 5 people, a wood chair, and a large-sized, self-registered weight scale. The chair was placed in the center of the scale and one person sat on it. The other 4 people also stood on the scale on each side of the sitter. At this point, their combined weight, including the chair, measured 712 pounds. Then all 5 were instructed to inhale and exhale deeply several times in unison. On the 5th count, everyone was instructed to retain their breath, and the 4 lifters would then quickly insert their fingers beneath the arms and legs of the sitter and lift him up with their fingers. To Carrington's shock and delight, he was able to scientifically prove that levitation was occurring, as he writes. On the first lift, the recorder stated that the dial had fallen to 660 pounds, a loss of 52 pounds. On the second lift, there was an apparent loss of 52 pounds. On the third lift, 60 pounds. On the fourth lift, 60 pounds. And on the fifth lift, 60 pounds. No gain of weight was at any point recorded. Invariably a loss, which, however, slowly returned to normal as the subject was held for some considerable time in the air. I have no theory to offer as to these observations, which I cannot fully explain, writes Fodor. Carrington's experiments with the lifting game, finger levitation, have actually proved that for some mysterious reason, rhythmical breathing may considerably reduce the weight of the human body. Another experiment was performed by Abbot Nolet in the later part of the 1800s. This involved the magnetizing of small animals placed on scales to record their weight. Using these methods, Nolet was able to significantly reduce the weight of a cat and a pigeon. Magnetizing animals and placing them on scales. Interesting. Patanjali's methods. Yogic methods to achieve levitation are thousands of years old and have been traced to their point of origin. They were first recorded by Patanjali, an Indian yogi who lived 2,500 years ago. Levitation is one of 8 major siddhis, or magic powers. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras describe how one can achieve numerous siddhis. Patanjali presents 2 methods to achieve levitation. According to Sutra 111.40, by mastery of Udana Vayu, the yoga can walk on water, swamps, and thorns without touching them. He can also levitate. Sounds simple enough, but the Yoga Sutras are famous for their seeming simplicity. What exactly is the Udana Vayu, and how does one gain mastery over it? The Udana Vayu is one of the 5 vital pranas, or energies. It is associated with the throat chakra. Mastering control of this particular energy is then a matter of samyama, or meditation. Richards recommends visualizing a very thin white line, the thickness of a human hair, extending from the region of your throat to the forepart of your nose, then to the space between your eyebrows, and finally to the top of your head. If you can visualize this clearly enough, Richard says, the first few times you may feel a tingling sensation in the area of the Udana. Later you may feel some pressure as the energy becomes stronger. And later still you will feel a very definite pulsating upward current of energies that manifests most strongly in the upper part of your head. After this, Richards recommends visualizing the energy of the Udana growing stronger and more powerful until it literally lifts you off the ground. In his book, Richards hints that he has found this method to be successful. As he writes, You will find this an exhilarating meditation to perform. Even before you begin, you get objective results. Even before you begin to get objective results. While the sutra seems to be effective, it is the Sutra 111.43 which is usually cited to achieve true levitation. According to the sutra, by knowing the relationship between the body and ether, the yogi transforms his body and mind so that they become as light as a cotton fiber. He can then levitate in space. Another translation by Samyama Meditation on the relationship between the body and the akasa, space, akasha, and on the lightness of such things as cotton down, the yogi acquires passage through the sky. This particular siddhi is considered one of the 8 major siddhis called laghima, meaning to become light as cotton. To perform this meditation, simply visualize your body being filled with space, recognizing that your body is made of vibrating molecules, which contain more space between them than the matter. Remember that the physical reality is a hallucination, which can actually be manipulated. Writes Richard, as you imagine your body becoming pervaded with the space, you feel a Writes Richards, as you imagine your body becoming pervaded with space, you feel a gradual feeling of lightness coming over you. This is the lightness of which the sutra speaks. If you feel it, that is your assurance that you are performing the siddhi correctly. If your effort is great, then your results will be great also. Meditation and prayer. Pretty much all methods to achieve levitation require some form of meditation. Many of the saints levitated apparently as a result of long meditation upon God. This is a simple but surprisingly effective method to achieve levitation and should not be underestimated. Most people who levitate not only have a strong belief in the existence of God, they have made a career of it. A life devoted to the meditation of the divine can provoke levitation. The conclusion is inescapable. It doesn't matter who or what you think God is, as this works in any culture, under any belief system. The obvious factor is the level of devotion and practice. The more effort, attention, and discipline that is applied to the meditation and praying on the perfection, love, and glory of God, the better will be the results. To levitate using prayer, simply find a quiet, comfortable area where you won't be disturbed. Then, depending upon your religion or spiritual inclinations, you may surround yourself with sacred, holy, or religious paraphernalia. Anything that inspires spiritual feelings within you should suffice. Then simply relax and concentrate all of your attention on God, the Spirit which moves through all things, all that is, nature, the universe, or whatever you conceive of as God. Recognize that you yourself are made in God's image, that you are a part of God, that God exists within you. Appeal to your spiritual guides, to other enlightened masters, to your higher self, to God, whatever you feel comfortable with. The point is to build a bridge from the physical world to the spiritual realms. However, belief in God is not necessarily required to levitate. There are many different meditation methods to achieve levitation. According to Swami Bhakta Vishita, anyone can achieve levitation through a very simple meditation. He instructs the would-be levitator to sit down with the spine, neck, and head in a straight line. Then allow your body to relax. Next, quiet your mind by allowing all thoughts to pass. Vishita then says, now we come to an important stage. Shut out all external and internal thoughts and mental energy, and think of that only which leaves your body at the time of death. So again, shut out all external and internal thoughts and think of that which leaves the body at the time of death. That only which leaves the body at the time of death. Focus all your mental energy inward on your soul, and as you begin to realize this more and more, a veritable blaze of illumination will arise within you. This is a wonderful experience, this bathing in the great ocean of soul force. It will develop startling powers in anyone It is capable of charging your being with powerful energy. It will brighten your intellect, lighten your physical weight, and may even give you the power of rising in the air. Levitation. According to Buddhist tradition, levitation will result after long meditation on either the third eye chakra or the other heart chakra. To use this meditation, simply find a quiet, comfortable location, clear your mind of all thoughts, and focus your attention on either of these two areas. Imagine your chakras becoming active. If you do this correctly, you may feel a spinning, buzzing, or warmth in the area of your attention. This is a good sign that means you're making progress. Meditating on these chakras will also activate and awaken other psychic abilities, including astral travel, precognition, clairvoyance, and more. According to the well-known ancient Chinese book on esoteric knowledge, The Secret of the Golden Flower, when one sits in meditation, the fleshly body becomes quiet, shining like silk or jade. It seems difficult to remain sitting. One feels as if drawn upward. This is called the spirit returns and touches heaven. In time, one can experience it in such a way that one really floats upward. People who have reached this stage are said to have obtained the rainbow body. In the Tripitaka, or other teachings of Buddha, he describes that one can float or walk in the air through a process of determination and resolution. All that is needed is total faith and complete resolve. Many of these saints achieved mystical states of consciousness through a process of severe austerities, including chastity, abstinence from food or eating polluted food, restricting the hours of sleep, sleeping on hard boards with a rock for a pillow, mortifying the flesh in a multitude of ways, wearing heavy chains on the hair or hair skirts, wearing only light clothes in cold weather, and much more. While not all of them tortured their physical bodies, most led very chaste and ascetic lifestyles. Austerities are clearly a very powerful factor in leading many of the saints to the state of consciousness where levitation is possible. On the other hand, many levitators limited the austerities of their students. Because of health dangers, this method is not preferable. Extreme austerities are therefore not recommended. However, fasting and other minor austerities may be helpful. In any case, always practice your austerities with extreme caution. As can be seen, there are many different ways to induce meditational levitations. Choose the method that feels most comfortable to you. If you meditate regularly on a daily basis, you will likely have the best results. Again, your progress will mostly depend upon the degree of your efforts you put forth. Mediumship. While popular belief is that mediumship is a congenital talent, there is evidence that it can be developed. In most cases, mediumship involves the use of disassociative devices such as a Ouija board, table tipping, automatic writing, pendulum, a trance state, or in some cases, direct vocal channeling. Developing mediumship again involves disassociation. The medium attempts to allow the ego to step aside and permit the consciousness of another to communicate telepathically. Mediums are apparently able to raise their vibrations so that they are in coincidence with the astral energies. This evidently creates a bond between the medium and the spirit world, whereby energies can be taken from the medium and manipulated by the spirits to produce mediumistic phenomena, including levitation. This would be a form of physical mediumship which is much rarer than mental mediumship. Also, it is a rare physical medium who can also levitate. That said, you will want to start out slowly. Mediumship is not always an easily controllable ability. The beginner is first encouraged to seek out a professional medium to expose themselves to the process and to study the mediumship literature. One then forms a small group of persons, usually from 4 to 10 people, equally divided between men and women, who might meet for seances regularly at the same time each week. If there is a medium in the group, after several sittings, you should start to get results. To practice With the Ouija board, pendulum, automatic writings, or table tipping, it is also best if you can learn this with an experienced medium. However, failing that, you can try it on your own. Begin with cleansing meditation, surround yourself mentally with white light, then ask mentally or out loud specifically for guidance from entities who are at or above your level of spiritual development. Maintain a positive attitude and radiate only love. This should protect you from a poltergeist haunting, which is sometimes the fate of those who mess around with disassociative methods to contact spirits without knowing what they are doing. Afterwards, always close with another cleansing white light meditation. Remember, mediumistic levitation is apparently caused by ghosts, so it's important to remember to remain aware of what you may be getting into. The chances are, if you are going to levitate through mediumistic meditations, you already possess strong abilities in this direction. It is quite easy to prove to yourself that levitation is possible using these methods. Simply get a Ouija board or a small table. Gather a small group of people who you trust implicitly, then place your fingers as lightly as possible on the pointer. Ask the spirits to come. If you are using a Ouija board, you ask questions, and the pointer should move seemingly by itself. The process is the same with table tipping. Put with your same group, gather around a small table, and as lightly as possible, place your fingers on the tabletop. Do not attempt to tip it by pressing down your fingers. Simply ask for contact. If you succeed in making contact, then you start asking for physical manifestations such as wrappings or levitation. Again, this works best with experienced mediums, but if you gather enough people, it is easy to produce inferior levitation effects, such as the table lifting on the edge or standing on one leg. Before and after each session, be sure to meditate again on positive energies, white light, and closing any spiritual doors that you may have opened. Again, this may safeguard you against any unwanted, malicious poltergeist activity. Mediumship is a very powerful method of levitation, and some researchers feel that there is little qualitative difference between levitating saints and mediums. Astral travel. As we have seen, there is a strong connection between astral travel and levitation. Apparently, by achieving the ability of astral travel, one is able to have access to astral energies on the physical plane. There are many methods to achieve astral travel, and the reader is encouraged to review the voluminous literature on the subject. See my book, Out of Body Exploring a Beginner's Approach, by Preston Dennett. In a nutshell, OBEs can be initiated in several ways, including lucid dream control, affirmations, relaxation, and visualization exercises. Again, repeated astral travel leads to the development of numerous siddhis, including telepathy, precognition, and levitation. To try this process, find a place that you can relax without distraction. Sit or lay down. Spend about 20 minutes without moving. Relax every muscle in your body until you begin to feel a heaviness, lightness, numbness, tingling, or vibration. These are exit sensations that are often felt immediately prior to exiting the physical body. Once you are physically relaxed to the point where you cannot feel your physical body, you may become mentally relaxed. Focus your attention away from your body and into your thoughts. Allow your thoughts to pass while at the same time observing how they begin to become images in your mind's eye. Once you reach the point where you are nearly asleep, you are ready to exit. At this point, visualize, intend, imagine, desire, affirm, remember, and will yourself to get out of the body. Imagine yourself running out of your body. Imagine yourself climbing a rope or a ladder. Imagine yourself rolling over and out of bed. Imagine yourself floating upwards or spinning. Imagine yourself already out of your body. That's all there is to it. If you persist, you will find yourself able to astral travel. You will get out of body. This can activate numerous psychic abilities, including precognition, clairvoyance, healing, and of course, levitation. Willpower. Some people have been able to levitate without years of meditation or prayer. They simply use their mind power, or a combination of imagination, desire, will, and intent. As the levitating Bulgarian farmer Dragzanovich said simply, "I get there by willpower." Ermolaev said, "I imagine I'm holding her up." Reverse thinking. The anonymous lady at the fair said, "You can just feel light in here," and tapped her chest. Captain Bartlett reported a feeling that he could lighten his weight at will, a talent he was able to demonstrate. Helen Hadsell practiced this method for months before she found herself suddenly flying. Each of these people are essentially doing the same thing. They are able to intensely focus their mind power to achieve levitation. To try this method, focus your desire, your willpower, your imagination, and your intent on one goal, levitation. Simply imagine yourself becoming light as air. Imagine your body is filled with space, and your arms and legs are attached to helium balloons. Vividly picture your body being drawn upwards. Use all your willpower to will yourself to levitate. Strongly focus your intent and attention on rising up. Will yourself with intense concentration to rise into the air. Desire it. Put emotional energy into your act. Know that you can do it. You just may be surprised at the results. With the above 6 methods, and with enough practice and persistence, levitation is within your grasp. In reality, there are infinite pathways to achieving levitation. Each person who has ever achieved levitation reached this mystical state in their own unique way. Choose the method that works best for you. If you are able to produce levitation, there is another thing to consider. There is a controversy among levitators. On one side, there are those who feel that levitation should never be demonstrated, nor should it be the goal, while enlightenment always remains the ultimate goal. Levitation and other siddhis are known to be powerful obstacles on the pathway to enlightenment by tempting our ego with pride and power, as well as leaving the levitator vulnerable to accusations of fraud or constant requests for further and better demonstrations. In a section of the Vinaya, Buddhist monks are specifically banned from levitating in public. This occurred after a monk showed off his levitating abilities to Buddha, and the Buddha scolded him for being like a prostitute. On the opposite extreme, there are those who display their abilities of levitation openly, not for self-aggrandizement or thrills, but as a display of their devotion to God and to inspire others to follow the pathway to enlightenment. This was much more common in ancient times, whereas today modern levitators' demonstrations are very rare. Then, of course, there is every range in between. If levitation is true, it is inevitable that there will be more accounts, sooner or later. Another prolific levitator like Daniel Home or Joseph Dessa will show up and turn modern science upside down. Conceivably, if enough people openly display the talent to levitate, it won't be so strange. It will be accepted as an odd human talent, but one that is potentially achievable for the masses. Judging from the consistency of the levitation reports, it is, I think, safe to conclude that there are many people living today who have the ability to levitate, and yet very few who are displaying this ability in a way that is generating significant publicity. Still, I can't help but wonder if levitation is a sign of progress on the path to spiritual enlightenment. Why would one want to hide this fact? Levitation is, in and of itself, so incredibly spectacular and dramatic, literally flying in the face of the known laws of gravity, that it seems meant to be a spectacle. Can you imagine, in the future, the International Yoga Olympics? Many people who have fantastic talents provide demonstrations. Why not levitation? Signs of spiritual advancement could just as easily have been, and often are, invisible to outside observers. However, levitation is so fantastic, it is impossible to miss. And yet, Those who levitate seem to learn very quickly that it is in their best interest to keep it a secret to all but those chosen few. So there you go. Now you know the secrets that were used and taught and only hidden in ancient occult schools and given to a select few persons. But they are now public knowledge, available for everyone. Give it a try. You have nothing to lose and so much to gain. Just think, you can actually fly. Or even better, maybe become enlightened. Doesn't that sound like an experience worth having? I think you can do it. Epilogue. When I first began my research into levitation, I was very skeptical. Years later, I am forced to reverse my opinions. I am now totally convinced that levitation is a reality. I honestly cannot imagine any other explanation for the huge number of accounts told by so many credible witnesses from so many different cultures throughout recorded history. I can only conclude that human potential is much greater than most people realize. Levitation is only one of the many superhuman abilities or siddhis that can be activated in anyone willing to follow the spiritual path. Achieving these abilities is simply a matter of applied knowledge. Those who actually try the methods to levitate may be surprised by their success. Again, my interest in levitation was sparked when a family friend revealed to me that she had levitated as a child. A few weeks later, I found another person who made the same claim. I later met several other levitators. After talking to so many people who claim to have levitated, I realized that it is an ability that anyone can learn. I also quickly discovered that the main obstacle to the advancement of knowledge about levitation is skepticism. The only thing stopping most people from levitating is that they don't think that they can do it. And yet, the amazing fact is, they can. Anybody can. Many coincidences brought this book into being. The most amazing was the fact that I actually knew people who had levitated. Same here. Then there were the many times that difficult to find books or obscure levitation accounts seemed to be guided to me. But there was one incredible incident that still makes me wonder. During my research into levitation, I went to visit a spiritual medium who had witnessed a levitation firsthand. In the audience was an older lady named Yvonne. We began talking. She told me about how she had experimented with the Ouija board. She stopped using it immediately because she explained the pointer kept levitating by itself. She denied ever levitating herself or even trying. That would be too scary. She then blurted out, "Did you know that my relative was a saint?" "Really? Which saint?" I asked, immediately intrigued. "Anne Catherine Emmerich." "Emmerich," she said. "Have you heard of her?" That's it. Human Levitation, How-To Guide. That was 6 methods, and really it does all come down to your ability to use thought force, your ability to manipulate the fundamental nature of reality, to develop the mind to a degree, and to develop the inner body's energy and just its ability to create energy, to produce these phenomena. But yeah, really what we should be doing is make the inner world as real as the outer world. And then you can find that the two are one, that there is no separation, and that the only limits that exist are those we impose upon ourselves. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Blessings on blessings.